Look at that on your screen. Here to help us break this down, this historic indictment of a former president, Donald J. Trump, presidential historian, friend of our show, Michael Beschloss. Michael, put this news into perspective for us. Those headlines on the world stage tomorrow morning.
Every American has to stand equal under the law. And why should we be in a situation that someone who steals a tube of toothpaste from a drugstore goes to jail or has to go on trial, and a president, possibly before he was president, during the time he was president, as an ex-president, committed all sorts of crimes that might be open to indictment? The presidency has been a punishment-free zone for much too long. The founders of this country thought, the best way to assure that we don't have a corrupt president is make sure you don't elect one. But they also knew that you can never make sure that that's true. So they thought that there would be impeachment. And Stephanie, after we've seen the last couple of years, how does impeachment do as a deterrent for lawless presidents? Sure didn't deter Donald Trump. He was impeached twice. So now, if we're lucky at all, the rule of law tonight is being enforced. And as of tomorrow morning, anyone who wants to run for president or serve as president has to assume that they're not going to wind up like Richard Nixon, copping a pardon and going to a lovely house in California. They're going to have to assume that they might wind up like Donald Trump, getting indicted. That's the way our system is supposed to work.
Well, this is unprecedented. It's never happened in U.S. history. We have seen things like this happen in democracies around the world.
Right, and they have survived all sorts of democracies, and oftentimes it's seen as a sign that the democracy is cleansing itself. That's something that we have not done. Richard Nixon, after he copped a pardon in 1974, spent the next 20 years telling interviewers and all sorts of people, I was railroaded, I shouldn't have been forced to resign as president. I didn't do anything different from any other president. We can't have this and expect to have equal justice in this country.
I'm going to speak to our friend John Allen in just a moment, but he wrote something that really caught my eye tonight, where he writes, at the heart of Trump's indictment, an unprecedented test of American ideals. Does that sound about right to you?
It does to me, because, whether you like Donald Trump politically or not, these are serious accusations. Most people who have been accused of some of the things we think he might be getting indicted for, and if this is 34 counts, he may be getting indicted for all sorts of things that we're not thinking of. Plus the insurrection that almost brought down our democracy, plus lying about documents that he took to his mansion and refused to give up. Any of us would not survive any of these things. If he had gone through all this and been scot-free, bad lesson for citizens, even worse lesson for future presidents and political figures. What we're seeing tonight may show us that, indeed, crime does not pay.
We talk about it all the time, this moment in time and the divisions in our country. Are you concerned that this indictment, not that the decision on Alvin Bragg's part should have been swayed by this, but are you concerned that this indictment could divide us even more?
Oh, no question. And that has happened with a lot of trials in our history, a lot of issues in our history. The demand that I would have, and I think you'd agree with me, Stephanie, is that the differences remain nonviolent. That's the way our system is supposed to operate. And if you have a president of the United States or other Republican leaders saying, go into the streets to protest this, threaten the DA, threaten jury members, threaten secretaries of states in states around the country that you don't like the way they went in the 2020 election, that's mob rule. And when we've got elected officials advocating rule in the streets rather than the rule of law, that's when our country is really in jeopardy. I hope we do not see it.
I agree with you right there, my friend. Michael Beschloss, thank you for joining us on this very important night.